Did you know Hong Kong has more skyscrapers than any other city in the world? Over 550 buildings here rise taller than 150 meters, earning it the nickname the Vertical City. From the sky, it looks like a shimmering forest of glass and steel, a symbol of wealth, ambition, and unstoppable growth. But behind this breathtaking skyline lies a story of resilience and transformation. Once just a small fishing village on the edge of China, Hong Kong rose to become a global financial powerhouse. So how did a tiny fishing village turn into one of the most powerful cities on Earth? And what makes Hong Kong's rise unlike any story the world has ever seen? Before the skyline, the forgotten beginning. Long before the gleaming towers, luxury malls, and glowing harbor lights, Hong Kong was a quiet, untouched corner of southern China. A place of misty hills, emerald forests, and small fishing villages scattered along the shore. Around the early 1800s, life here moved slowly. Fishermen cast their nets at dawn, salt farmers worked under the blazing sun, and wooden junks drifted lazily through the calm waters of Victoria Harbour. The people who lived here weren't chasing wealth or power. They were simply surviving. Their homes were made of wood and bamboo, their markets small and lively, filled with the scent of dried fish and incense. The land itself was rugged and wild, its steep mountains rising dramatically from the sea. Beautiful, yet cut off from the great empires shaping the world beyond. No one could have imagined that this sleepy, overlooked settlement, with barely 7,000 inhabitants, would one day become a city of more than 7 million, filled with skyscrapers that touch the clouds. Hong Kong's story began in silence, in simplicity. Yet even then, the spirit that would define it, determination, adaptability, and resilience, was already there, quietly waiting to rise. The British arrival, a harbour claimed by empire. The year was 1841. Cannons thundered across the South China Sea as the First Opium War raged between Britain and the Qing dynasty. It was a clash not just of armies, but of worlds, one powered by industrial might and another bound by tradition. When the smoke cleared, Britain emerged victorious. Under the Treaty of Nanking in 1842, China was forced to hand over Hong Kong Island, a rocky, sparsely populated outpost, to the British Empire. To many, it seemed worthless. The land was barren, mountainous, and short on fresh water. But to Britain, it was something priceless, a gateway into China's massive market and a perfect deep-water harbor for global trade. Almost overnight, the island began to change. British ships arrived, merchants set up trading houses, and Chinese workers came seeking opportunity. Streets were built, banks opened, and English names began to replace the old Cantonese ones. What had once been a quiet fishing village was now becoming a vital port in the British Empire, where East met West for the first time in a new and uneasy partnership. Hong Kong was no longer just a patch of land on the map. It had become the empire's new jewel, a city born from conflict, destined for transformation. The birth of a trading hub, where East met West. By the mid-1800s, the once silent harbor had come alive with noise, color, and chaos. Ships from every corner of the world crowded Victoria Harbor. Steamers from London, junks from Guangzhou, and clippers loaded with tea, silk, and opium. The smell of salt and spice filled the air. Deals were struck in a dozen languages. Hong Kong was no longer a sleepy outpost. It was becoming the beating heart of trade in Asia. The British built grand colonial buildings, banks, and docks, while Chinese merchants opened bustling markets and workshops. Cultures blended in unexpected ways. English gentlemen in linen suits walked past Chinese hawkers selling noodles and herbs on the same street. The city was rough, humid, and crowded, but opportunity was everywhere. Life wasn't easy. Disease, poverty, and inequality were rampant. The gap between the colonial elite and local workers was vast. Yet, somehow, the people endured, drawn by the promise of something greater. Every ship that entered the harbor carried not just goods, but hope. Hong Kong had found its identity, a city of traders, dreamers, and survivors, standing between two worlds, never fully belonging to either, yet thriving because of both. War and survival. The darkest days. By the early 1940s, Hong Kong was thriving, a vibrant port where fortunes were made and lost every day. But far beyond the glittering harbor, the world was sliding into chaos. World War II had begun, and Hong Kong would soon be caught in the storm. On December 8, 1941, just hours after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japanese forces launched a brutal assault on Hong Kong. For 18 long days, British, Canadian, Indian, and Chinese troops fought desperately to defend the city, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. On Christmas Day, the British governor surrendered, a day forever remembered as Black Christmas. The years that followed were some of Hong Kong's darkest. Under Japanese occupation, food was scarce, businesses collapsed, and fear ruled the streets. Thousands fled, others starved, and life as people knew it simply vanished. Yet even in the shadows, the spirit of Hong Kong endured. People helped each other, shared what little they had, and held on to the belief that one day the nightmare would end. When Japan finally surrendered in 1945, Hong Kong lay in ruins, its harbor silent, its people broken but unbowed. And from that devastation, the city would soon begin its most remarkable transformation yet. Refugees and reinvention, rising from the ashes. When World War II ended in 1945, Hong Kong was scarred, but not defeated. Its streets were shattered, its economy in ruins, but its harbor, that deep, perfect harbor, still held promise. And in the years that followed, waves of people came rushing in. By 1949, after China's civil war, thousands upon thousands fled the mainland, escaping famine, persecution, and political turmoil. They arrived in Hong Kong with almost nothing, just hope, courage, and a will to survive. Makeshift shacks covered the hillsides, factories sprang up in every corner, and the sound of sewing machines and hammers filled the air. These refugees didn't just rebuild Hong Kong, they transformed it. The city became a hive of industry, producing textiles, electronics, and toys that would reach every corner of the world. Families worked tirelessly in tiny apartments, saving every dollar, dreaming of something better. Out of hardship came innovation. Out of struggle came opportunity. And in just a few short decades, Hong Kong rose from the ashes of war to become one of Asia's fastest-growing economies. Proof that even in the face of adversity, human resilience can build miracles. The economic miracle from sweat to skyline. By the 1970s, the sound of progress echoed through Hong Kong. What had once been a city of refugees and factories was transforming into a financial powerhouse. The skyline began to climb higher, and so did the city's ambitions. From crowded workshops and narrow alleys emerged gleaming office towers, neon lights, and the unstoppable rhythm of capitalism. Hong Kong had become one of the 4 Asian tigers, alongside Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan, a symbol of what relentless hard work could achieve. The city's economy exploded, powered by trade, finance, and a fierce entrepreneurial spirit. Container ships filled the harbor, carrying goods made in Hong Kong to every corner of the planet. But this wasn't just about money, it was about identity. The people of Hong Kong, once poor, displaced, and uncertain, were now building one of the most modern, efficient, and vibrant cities in the world. A place where dreams didn't wait for permission. By the 1980s, Hong Kong was glowing, a city of opportunity, energy, and confidence. Its skyline reflected not only steel and glass, but the unbreakable spirit of its people. The fishing village had finally become a global symbol of success. The Handover, one city, two worlds. By the mid-1990s, Hong Kong stood at the peak of its success, a global financial hub, a city that had risen from nothing. But beneath the neon lights and booming markets, uncertainty filled the air. The clock was ticking toward July 1st, 1997, the day Britain would return Hong Kong to China. For 156 years, the Union Jack had flown above Victoria Harbour. Now, it would come down for the last time. As rain poured that night, as if the skies themselves were mourning, Britain's governor sailed away, and the Chinese flag was raised over the city. The moment was historic, emotional, and uncertain. The world watched as Hong Kong entered a new chapter under the promise of one country, two systems. It was a delicate balance. Beijing would regain sovereignty, but Hong Kong would retain its freedoms, laws, and capitalist way of life. Many hoped it would be the best of both worlds. Yet behind the celebration, questions lingered. Could Hong Kong keep its unique identity? Could it stay free, open, and global under Chinese rule? No one knew for sure. But one thing was clear: Hong Kong was once again standing on the edge of history, ready to face whatever came next. The modern metropolis, the vertical city. Today, Hong Kong rises like a city from the future, a skyline so dense it looks unreal. Over 550 buildings soar higher than 150 meters, more than anywhere else on Earth. From the misty peaks of Victoria Harbour, the city glows like a galaxy of lights. It's fast, loud, unstoppable, a place where ambition never sleeps. The streets pulse with energy. Luxury cars glide past old trams, Michelin-starred restaurants sit beside noodle stalls that haven't changed in decades. High-speed ferries race across the water, carrying bankers, students, and dreamers who all call this crowded, chaotic city home. Hong Kong is a city of contrasts, east and west, ancient and modern, chaos and order. Here, skyscrapers rise beside temples, and centuries of culture blend with cutting-edge technology. It's a world where tradition and innovation coexist, sometimes uneasily, always beautifully. But behind the glass towers lies something deeper, the story of human endurance. Hong Kong's greatness doesn't just come from its wealth or its skyline. It comes from its people, relentless, resourceful, and unafraid to climb higher, no matter how steep the mountain. The challenges of a new era between freedom and the future. As the 21st century unfolded, Hong Kong's skyline glittered brighter than ever, but beneath that brilliance, tension was building. The promise of one country, two systems began to blur, and questions of identity, freedom, and future filled the air. In the 2010s, waves of protests swept through the streets. Millions marched for democracy, autonomy, and the values that had long defined the city. The world watched as umbrellas filled the avenues, a sea of color beneath the rain, symbols of hope, courage, and defiance. Hong Kong had always been a city that spoke through action, and now its voice echoed across the globe. At the same time, economic inequality was rising. Sky-high rents, shrinking spaces, and the growing influence of Beijing tested the spirit of the people. Yet even as challenges mounted, Hong Kongers refused to be broken. In every struggle, they found strength. In every setback, resilience. This city has faced war, occupation, and upheaval, and every time it has risen again. Hong Kong's fight is not just political, it's deeply human. It's the fight to preserve identity, dignity, and the right to dream freely under the glow of its own skyline. The spirit of Hong Kong, the city that never falls. Through war and peace, hardship and triumph, Hong Kong has always found a way to rise. From a forgotten fishing village to a global powerhouse of glass and steel, this city's story is not just about buildings or money, it's about people. People who refuse to give up, no matter the odds. Fishermen who built livelihoods from nothing. Refugees who turned despair into determination. Entrepreneurs who transformed a rocky island into one of the most advanced cities in the world. Generation after generation, they've faced storms, both real and political. Yet, they've always stood tall. Hong Kong is more than a city. It's a spirit, a relentless belief that no mountain is too steep, no challenge too great. Its skyline may dazzle the world, but its true light shines from within its people, those who keep climbing, rebuilding, and dreaming higher. Because in the end, Hong Kong isn't just a place on a map, it's a living testament to human resilience. A city that was never supposed to rise, but did, and keeps on rising.